So do you take into account the fact that on average a male full-time employee works longer hours than a female full-time employee?
Not directly, no.
You don't?
Got a video here. What about the gender workplace hours gap? You're going to enjoy this one. Before we get started, I recorded a video today for my second channel, and it was supposed to go up. And then I realized this microphone wasn't recording, so that sucks. But it'll be up tomorrow. I'll record a video for it tomorrow. So if you haven't yet, go subscribe to my second channel. Link below.
All right. On another issue, what is the gender workplace hours gap? The agency reports a workplace gender pay gap comparing male full-time employees and female full-time employees. But male full-time employees work longer hours on average than female full-time employees. And the agency doesn't account for this when reporting a workplace gender pay gap.
Using ABS data on employee earnings and hours, the gender pay gap as at May 2016 was 15.7%. It is a survey of employees, that information from the ABS. It's not a census. And it's only conducted every 2 years. They only collect the data every 2 years. What we do is we annualise our figure to full-time. So we look at all part-time employees and full-time employees that may have worked part of a 12-month period, and we annualise that data to take into account part-time hours. So therefore we're converting the part-time hours to full-time, if you like.
So do you take into account the fact that on average a male full-time employee works longer hours than a female full-time employee?
Not directly, no.
You don't?
But we annualise the part-time hours and those that have worked full-time but for part of the year. So that way, because at the moment, what I can tell you is women work part-time at 3 times the rate of men. So by annualising it, we are looking at a more realistic...
So basically,
Well, there you have it. You're saying women work part-time hours at a lot higher of a rate than men do. Well, there you go. I mean, come on.
on annual salary.
Yeah.
What about if you did it on an hourly rate? What would be the gender hourly pay gap?
Well, we don't have that data, Senator.
You don't have that data?
No, because we ask for annualised salaries and from our employers when they report their data in.
Okay, so if a woman was working fewer hours but earning the same rate per hour as a man doing the same job, would that show up as a gender pay gap?
No.
But well, then in that case, you are looking at hourly rates.
They're not.
Janine Budhoft, Research and Analytics Executive Manager. So
Yeah,
we do not...
Yeah. Go to the second one. See if she can save this one, because this one does not have the answers. That is ridiculous. So it's almost like they expect women to work less and still make as much as men do who are working more. Isn't that convenient?
We do not collect the real hours that an employee might have worked. So what we do collect is the hours that are specified in a contract, and that is provided by organisations to us. If that makes sense.
Yeah. But I mean, if you do you annualise it on the assumption that men and women are working the same number of hours, or is it actual earnings?
It's actual earnings, and we are unable to. We don't have the data to distinguish or to then adjust for hours, because we cannot collect the real hours that employees are worked.
What is going on?
So it's not possible to tell whether any or some of the gender pay gap is just simply attributable to a different number of hours worked. Is that right?
It depends on whether we are looking at hours that are in contract or whether whether we're looking at hours that employees worked as, overtime.
Why is it you don't look at hours worked?
Because we wouldn't
You
be
don't collect it.
victims anymore. There would be no wage gap anymore. That's why they don't. They want to be victims. Why wouldn't you want to be a victim, right? It's easy. When you're a victim, you're the underdog. There's no pressure. If you perform, if you do well, hey, good job. That wasn't expected. You basically outshined your expectations. Good job. And if you don't perform, well, you're an underdog. You're the victim. Nobody expected anything. You're a victim of your circumstances. They want to be victims. And I'm sure you've noticed this as well. They want there to be a wage gap. They want this to be true. And, it reminds me of one time when I was competing a lot in jiu-jitsu, right? And I was winning a lot. And I had one of my friends come to me, one of my training partners, and he could tell I was worried and was nervous. And he was like, why are you so nervous? Why are you so worried? You've been winning a lot. You always win. And I was like, well, yeah, that's exactly why I'm so nervous, because there's a lot of pressure. Now it's expected. It's expected. I expect it of myself. You obviously expect it. There's more pressure. I'm not an underdog here. And so this is like what's going on here. It's like they want there to be this so-called wage gap. So they take these studies and they don't conduct them properly. And it's funny. It's like, isn't it interesting if you took men who performed this study and wanted to look and find this data, there probably would be a better outcome, wouldn't there? And just maybe they would actually work on it longer and put more time into it. Isn't that great? It's just a manifestation of what's going on here. And this reminds me of like a group of students, a group of middle school students reporting back to their teacher about their group project, and just nothing makes sense.
But the ABS does. It's available.
The ABS does
Yeah.
does a survey, yes.
Every 2 years.
Yes.
But again, as I say, we collect census data, that is survey data. And the other thing I would say at this stage, Senator, is just because somebody might be sitting at their desk for 12 hours a day doesn't mean you're getting 12 hours of productivity out of them, and doesn't mean that they're working in essence any harder than someone that may sit at their desk for 8 hours. So I don't think...
That's true.
What a ridiculous argument. That's where you're going with this? Well, hold on. So you're saying the person who works for 8 hours should be paid just as much as the person who works 12 hours? That's your counter to this? That's like the position you're taking to defend your flawed research? Wow. Unbelievable.
But they're getting paid for the 12 whether they're doing any work, or they're getting paid for however many hours they're sitting at their desk. And the issue for your agency is that if it's a male sitting at a desk, they're getting paid more than a female sitting at a desk. So the question is whether irrespective of the hours, the question is whether for those hours for which they're getting paid, is there a difference between men and women? So
We don't collect information on ours, Senator.
ABS does, so it's available. So if we put in a question on notice, will you access the ABS data and so you can answer that question?
Well, I did answer it earlier. I said that the ABS employee and earnings and hours data, as at May 2016, the gender pay gap was 15.7%.
That, if I understood you correctly, that's referring to annualised salary, is that right?
That's correct.
What's the gap based on? Per hourly rates or annual incomes or annualised incomes, or what are we talking about here?
I mean, it's like there's children presenting their findings, and this teacher's just like, what's going on here? How did you guys come to this conclusion? What's up with this? That doesn't make sense. This doesn't add up. You forgot this. And they're just speechless. They don't know how to address it. I mean, at least she outright admitted, yeah, we don't collect hours. We don't look at the hours. And then you go around and this gets preached over and over, and how oppressed women are, how they're getting paid 70 cents on the dollar in comparison to men. It's such a hard life, male privilege. This is why we need feminism. And it's just all based on a lie, and people eat it up. They eat this shit up. Obviously, specifically women, and men do as well, because those men have some male self-hatred. They're like, man, we as men, we have been oppressing women so much. Look at this. They get paid 70 cents on the dollar. It reminds me of a picture I saw, and it's a bunch of these beta liberal males on their knees bowing before women to apologize for apparently the years of oppression. And I'm sure you've seen that picture too, and it's just so silly. And much respect to this guy. Just calm and collected, just very simple questions. and they're falling apart. Their papers are scrambling. Look at them.
Okay. The EEH data, so that's the employee earnings and hours data, includes all employees regardless of employment status and reflects ordinary time cash earnings. The EEH survey produces hourly earnings for non-managers and can be used to produce a gender pay gap measure inclusive or exclusive of part-time employees. The EEH data can also be configured in a variety of other ways that are useful to the gender pay gap estimates, e.g. managerial versus non-managerial employees. The big drawback from where we sit is that EEH data was identified as being...
Here's the thing. She already said they don't collect hours, so whatever she's rambling on about right now is either her backtracking, or she misspoke earlier, or she's misspeaking right now. But she outright said we don't collect the real hours.
Just done on a 2-year cycle.
I don't think I can think of many men who would find it acceptable that a woman, irrespective of how many hours she's working in the day, if she's doing the same amount of work as a man, or the same job as a man, was paid any less on the basis that she's a woman. I can't think of any men who would support that. And yet, because you're not looking at hours, we don't know whether that's occurring or not. Am I right there?
Senator, I think at this stage, as I've said to you, we are unable to collect and analyse that data. There are other countries, of course, that do that, and we will...
Not even every 2 years with the ABS survey data? You could do it at least every 2 years.
And I gave you the figure of 15.7% based on the calculation that we last did.
What's the 15.7 reflect?
So what I was about to say, Senator, is I'm happy to take that question on notice and go back and look at that last calculation that we did and provide you with the workings on that.
Isn't it ironic how it's a group of women presenting this? You couldn't have just at least one guy, even if he's on your side, even if he's really, really liberal or right, like left-leaning. You couldn't have one guy. You guys are just making yourselves look bad. At least he would take a little bit of the blame from you, but this is just a group of women, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, a group of all women. Matter of fact, they're all women. There's not one male in this seating. Maybe that's why this is such a flawed study. Maybe that's why they're missing so much data and facts. I've mentioned it before, but when it comes to propaganda, you accuse the other side of doing what you're doing. And there was a study, I believe, out of Google, and they found that they're actually paying women more. They were paying the women more. I think it was the engineers. And then, also it's like there's so many incentives for these women to get jobs in sort of male-dominated spaces. So if anything, they're getting it's like affirmative action. It's exactly what it is, essentially. They're getting special privileges and opportunities solely because they're women. And then we still have this group of people, this group of ladies just insisting they're so damn oppressed. They can't seem to get anything done because they're making 70 cents on the dollar that men are. Fascinating. Anyways, if you enjoyed that, do me a favor, leave a like and subscribe.